Good morning. It's 9 o'clock, and I'd like to welcome everyone to the Budget and Finance Committee meeting of the Rec Centers of Sun City West Governing Board. I'm calling the meeting to order, and we have established a quorum. All of our members are present. First order of business will be to review our minutes from January 4th, 2022. Are there any additions, corrections, changes that need to be made? If not, they will stand as written. Thank you so much. And I believe Anita was our secretary for those, weren't you? Yes, I was. Thank you, thank you. And today our fill-in is Gary Bosack, who says he's here with pencil and eraser. Our first order of business will be a review of the December 2021 financials. And in the absence of Pete Finelli, who is serving jury duty today, Cliff Smart will give the financials for us.
Good morning, everyone. While Pete is fulfilling his civic duty, I will do my best to run through this information, and then we also have our budget presentation. So we've got a lot to go over this morning, so let me get started. You all have the details of the financial statements, and the presentation I'll be working on, it will be an overview of the variances for the month of December, current for the month, and also year to date. So can you switch to the presentation? Okay, let's get started. So revenues for the current month, variance to budget were favorable by $163,000. Variance to prior year, $114,000 for the month of December. Some of the highlights here are golf fees, variance to budget. Again, this has been a recurring theme month over month, and we basically weren't sure coming off the high rounds of last year in COVID. I understand we decided to be very judicious on our rounds play when we budgeted, so this is causing the variance in the favorable variance in the golf fees. And then bowling, again, was closed. We were unsure there, but favorably 163 over budget and 114 over prior year. Moving on to expenses, total expenses were unfavorable by $64,000 to budget and unfavorable by $172,000 versus prior year. Some highlights here are wages and benefits year over year with the salaries increases, minimum wage increase, and 20% health insurance premium increase. Some of the other expenses are things like credit card fees, also our increase in insurance premiums for our garage and umbrella coverage. Next slide. Okay, so operating cash inflow, outflow. So the total impact of that for December was a favorable variance of $99,000 versus budget, and an unfavorable variance of $58,000 versus prior year. Now let's move on to year to date. Kind of the recurring theme again is the favorable variance, which is good. We like favorable variances that are recurring. But in membership, mainly due to the opening of business year over year from COVID, the tenant card fees, the guest fees at the different facilities are all having a positive impact, which is great. Also, golf course fees. The variance to budget is mainly due to rounds. The variance to prior year is mainly due to the mix. So we're getting a lot of public play, which allows us to generate a higher fee per round, which has had a positive impact. Bowling, again, The favorable variance year over year, budget and prior year is, due to the bowling facility sports pavilion being open. Also, and the ancillary revenue, these are rental cart fees and range balls and cell tower revenue. And we're seeing the positive impact again of, being open for business on that line item and also on the merchandise and food and beverage. One other thing impacting the ancillary fees was the golf cart fee increase year over year. Looking at expenses, salaries, wages, and benefits, the favorable variance versus budget is we have open seats that we're trying to fill. The job market it's a tough market right now to find people. So we're seeing some increases in some subcontract labor because of that, but we are experiencing a favorable versus budget because of that. Versus prior year, although we have the open seats, we still do have the salary and wage increase effective this year, so that explains the variance versus prior year. Landscape maintenance, we're all aware of the increasing landscape maintenance costs. We had the facts and findings for the overseeding in July, so that's impacting that number. And then again, I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but our credit card fees year over year are increasing, and we're close to $500,000 in credit card fees budgeted because of the benefits of that. First of all, are great. We collect our money quicker. The processing times are much quicker. Less labor involved with that, but you have to pay those fees if you accept credit cards. So a big part of that, all other expenses, is an increase in credit card fees, and then also just inflationary pressures year over year as well. Overall, favorable variance on cash, operating cash inflow of $918,000, and also over budget, and then over prior year of $171,000. Okay, moving on to capital related APF fees. We had an APF fee increase last year or this year over last year. So the variance to prior year is attributable to that. The variance to budget is mainly attributable to budgeted home sales. We budget 100 closings a month, so to speak, title changes, or however you want to label it. So that explains the variance there. Moving down into the investment gains and losses, obviously, we talk about every month, the nature of this, and due to the unpredictable nature of the market, we do not assign a budget line item here. But for the month of December, we were $62,000 in realized and unrealized losses, and compared to 123 loss in prior year, and year-to-date total losses are 167,000 as compared to 1.6 million loss in prior year. Same theme on the APF fees year-to-date, and again, comparing year over year in the market, good luck with that. So, but we do have, some depth, not only changes in the market itself, but also changes in the mix when we're comparing year over year, which are discussed every month. Okay, overall revenues over under expenses for the current month were favorable $222,000 and unfavorable $156,000 when factoring in the capital related. Year to date, next slide please. This is how we stand year to date. Positive variance of $1,278,000 and unfavorable variance of $1,009,000, mainly due to the capital related items. Any questions?
Yes, Cliff, thank you, first of all.
You're welcome, John.
Nice presentation. I'm looking for a little more insight into the wages expense. If you
Okay.
could drop back, pull back up to
Okay.
some of your first comments. It looks to me like wages are up 2.5%, 3% year over year, which is a remarkably low number in my mind. No doubt there's a lot of good management going on day to day, week to week, month to month that produces that. But I think I'm looking for some insights into how much more is Sun City West paying to get the same jobs done. The rate, if you will, part of that has to be escalating faster than the rate we're seeing in terms of dollars falling into the financials. And first of all, job well done. Secondly, I'm wondering if there are certain things not getting done that we need to worry about for the future. This is fine in the short run, but
Yeah.
there's a price to everything.
Yeah.
So could you, is there more detail available that you would know, or is this something we should wait next month and talk to Pete about? I don't want to, as a pinch hitter here, I don't want to put you on the spot about
Sure.
things you may not be prepared to really talk about. But I am interested in, for the community's sake, kind of getting a feel of how do we stand with the labor that takes care of all of us and our facilities all the time.
Okay. So I can provide some context there. And then when we're done, if you'd like more, we can certainly circle the wagons and get that to you for sure. But what I'll say to that is, first of all, thank you for the foreshadowing of our 22-23 budget, because we're going to talk about that a lot. And it's a challenge. That variance over prior year encompasses positive variances due to unfilled positions. And the impact of that lies down in the landscape maintenance and other expenses areas where we're having to subcontract a lot of that labor right now at the courses and at the facilities. So it's a challenge. It is a big challenge of ours, and it's something that we've tried to address a little bit this year in terms of salary increases as of the first of the year. Also, we've done some, benefit kind of. What we decided to do was change our contribution from the association on the health insurance premiums. We changed those from 80% to 85% to help absorb some of that cost, also to make us more competitive in the market. But the job market is tough. I mean, we're going up against, the Amazons that are paying starting out at 18 an hour, fast food restaurants, $16 to $18 an hour. Fortunately, we don't have burgers to flip here. I don't think too many people like flipping burgers, but it's something we have to definitely consider. And there's a couple of kind of major moves that we're going to do. We're budgeting for and hoping to roll those out in 22-23 that'll also help alleviate that problem. So I hope that gives a little bit more context, but if you want some more details into the numbers, we can certainly get that to you.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up with you on that.
Okay.
I guess what I'm thinking is that if we have a defined task, we have one-to-one worker to a task, what are we paying? How much more per hour, per day are we paying for that job than we did?
Than we did in prior year?
Yeah. What's the rate of labor increase that we're facing as a community? Because I'm more forward-looking than backward-looking on my question.
Okay. Yeah, so forward-looking, again, we'll get into this with the budget, but we're looking at doing a market adjustment, and then I'll get into the details of that on the budget, and then also a merit increase as of 1/1/2023. So I'll explain the details to that in the budget presentation.
I'll save my question for the budget.
Okay.
I guess the only question I have is kind of a tail end of what John asked, and is that, are there things not getting done right now because we don't have enough employees?
I would say no, but we are stressing our employees right now. We are stressing them out. We are asking them to wear a lot of hats and work extra hours. And at some point, we will begin to deteriorate. And some people may say if they've experienced something in a certain area that we have maybe deteriorated a little bit. I haven't been getting those complaints. I'm not sure if Bill has, but in some areas we are doing that. So we feel like we really have to make a move on this budget, and we'll explain what those moves are.
Thank you, Cliff.
You're welcome.
Good stand-in for Pete.
Okay. Thanks.
We'll give you a break here,
All
and
right.
our next item that we're going to discuss, oh, sorry, George is just getting ready to remind me, I'm sure. Do I have consensus to accept the financials as presented?
Yes.
Thank you. The next thing that we're going to talk about is FI 10, which has a conflict of interest provision in it. And we had discussed this at our last meeting in January, and we held off because of some of the RR&Ps. But in looking at what has happened with the RR&Ps, to my mind, those refer to independent contractors who are being hired by our clubs. And I'm not sure that that has the bearing that we need here. Does Donna, do you? Okay. I thought I heard you say something. Anyway, if you will look at what should be, let's go to the FI 10, please. What we right now have in vendor relationships, there's a strict prohibition for any employee, committee member, or governing board director of the association who has or whose relatives have a substantial interest in any sale, purchase, or service to the association from participating in any manner in such contract, sale, or purchase. And what we are proposing is any employee, committee member, or governing board director of the association who holds or who may have or who has any member of their family who holds any interest in a business, company, or organization that directly or indirectly conducts business with the association or that may profit due to the association business or activity must disclose that interest to the appropriate said general manager, committee chair, or governing board president. Those parties involved in such interest must abstain from participating in any decision-making process that may materially benefit them because of those interests. And Kathy, I believe you're the one who brought this forward, aren't you?
I'm not sure it was this one, but I'll talk about it. I think this is a solid change here. If you really look at 6.1 as it was originally written, it is quite narrow because it talks about sale, purchase, or service, that you actually are involved in it. And really none of us are involved in that part. So the way it's written now is really talking about if you have some type of interest in that, you need to say so, and then we can have the conversation on how that might impact you personally or not, and whether it's materially beneficial to you. So I support this. I think this is a good change.
Would you make a motion to?
I'll move for the change.
Do we have a second?
My concern is, are we going to be limiting anyone, say we have a committee member that also participates in ARC or in Helping Hands or the Community Fund, which are our true 501c organizations. Are we causing any angst for any of those type of organizations with this language?
Okay, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, just describe for me, what do you mean by angst?
Is there going to be a concern because you have some, like I said, let's say my husband is involved in ARC, okay? with his involvement in ARC, I'm on this committee and ARC decides to do something, what's that going to do to me?
Well, this relates to you only.
I understand that, but it says any employee, committee member, or member of the family who holds. Now, is that going to trickle down to me, or how is that going to happen? And if not, what happens if you do have a member from ARC that ultimately sits on this committee, or Helping Hands, or the foundation, or any other committee?
Let me interject a minute. I think if it's with ARC is a charter club.
It's also a 501c3.
That's correct, but we're talking about the association. And I'm not sure how the association would interact with ARC as far as purchasing goods or services.
Okay, do they participate in any of the car shows and so on and so forth that they have here? Yeah.
Is that, Bill, could you weigh in?
Happy to. Is this on?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. I think the language that is written there, basically we talk about may profit due to the association business or conducts business with the association, basically need to disclose that. It's really in a disclosure factor. It's really being upfront. If that is the case and we're making an ARC decision and you want to disclose that your husband is a member of ARC or the president of the ARC committee, I think at that point in time, the board in question can make a decision on whether or not you vote, or whether, and just as long as you're disclosing any kind of conflict that may arise, I think that's what I think they're after.
I just don't want to cause any problems for our organizations that truly do a big service for this community, such as HAND, such as Foundation, such as ARC. So I just want to make sure we have adequately protected them from any potential issues.
Well, I think as Bill said, all we're looking at is disclosure. We're not trying to change the way we do business with any of them.
That's fine.
Okay.
Just a follow-up question on that, Bill. You stated that they have to, I thought it was on. All right, there we go. All right, I think you said if we reveal that we have an interest in it, then that's enough, and then the rest of the committee determines whether or not we abstain. Is that correct?
I would say so.
Then this part here says, those parties involved in such interest must abstain from participating in any decision-making process.
That may
Materially benefit them from those interests.
That's a key word there.
Okay, so then basically by saying they may, that may materially benefit. So is there any definition of may materially benefit? I mean, I gain a benefit if I vote for it for like the woodworking club because I'm using the facility.
Right. I'm not the attorney in the room, but those are the words, may, shall, must, and those types of things are kind of in the legal world. We could certainly have our attorney take a peek at that and bring that back, but I'm thinking the intent there is that, disclosure and who's benefiting.
Because to me, may indicates an option.
Right.
Shall says you must. So I guess what you're saying is, interpreting from what you're saying, is they may materially benefit from those of that interest. So, I don't know.
I think this is common language that you find in most organizations, large organizations. I think the language we had previously is really quite narrow in some regard. Here, we're just trying to be forthcoming in any conflict that you may have. And I like the word actually may, material benefit, because that gives us the opportunity to have a discussion and move forward from there. So I call for the question.
Can I finish discussion, please? I would say that when we talk about materially benefiting, I think most of us see that as something coming to you personally. And in the case of something like the wood shop, unless they're going to do something that's going to allow you to go over and make widgets that you sell, which we're not supposed to be doing anyway, there wouldn't be a material benefit. So I would like to let the other
Sure.
Dick, did you have any comments?
No, I was just thinking that in past, I have signed financial disclosures. I had to have an annual declaration of a financial disclosure, and it was words almost exactly verbatim to this. And the other thought I had is that I'm not sure how it would really affect our clubs, because they're not, I mean, according to their charter, they're not supposed to be doing that anyway. You know, so if there is some, I just don't see the connection there with that. Frankly, I think this is good, and I agree with Kathy. I think this is well-written, and it's a vast improvement over what we've had.
Richard, John, do you have any comments? No comment. Gary?
Just second Dick's insight, I think this is preemptive, and there is a caveat in it that allows for a decision to be made once the facts are determined, and you can't do better than that with a policy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I would recommend that as it is, it looks great. I would send it to the association attorney for the protection of the association for review for content before we move forward on any policy change.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor that does not include, thank you.
Yeah, I just do have to say that this is a little bit in conflict with the way things are currently, because you're saying that they must abstain, and according to policy we have been following, and I think this came from the attorney, you declare that you have this conflict, and yes, the rest of the committee members can determine whether or not you should be involved in the discussion, but it does not take away your right to vote on it. So,
Are you saying that we probably should say may abstain instead of must?
yeah, I'm thinking on that. Otherwise, I think let's get it verified from the attorney.
I'll comment again. It says they must abstain if they materially benefit. And I think if somebody materially benefits, they must abstain. So if I own an asphalt company that is putting down new parking lots here, I am materially benefiting from that, and I believe I must abstain from the support or the vote of it. That's just my clarification.
And that would make sense, and I would not disagree with that. But I'm just telling you that in my investigation, in certain situations, that's not been the ruling in terms of what's allowed.
It's a change. It is a change.
Any other comments from the committee members? Kathy, you want to state your motion again, please?
I move for FI 10 procurement policy vendor relationships for the new language beginning with any employee committee member and ending with because of those interests. I move in support of this change.
Thank you. And second, did we have Okay, thank you. And this does not include sending it to the attorney. And this, if we approve this, all we are doing is forward it to the governing board. So we will vote on this, and we'll just go around. Anita? Aye. Dick?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, that's unanimous. Then that will go to the governing board at our next workshop. The next thing, we're going to see Pete, AKA Cliff, again for is this the first public presentation of the fiscal year 22-23 operational and capital budget?
It is, yes.
And this is a momentous day, too. I'm sure all of you are aware that this is a true Tuesday because it's 2/22/22. So.
Yes, a lot of weird omens going on.
A lot of weird numbers there. One number.
Before we get started on the budget, I'd like to just kind of hit the rewind button a little bit because I forgot to go over the capital for the month of December. Can we do that?
We may.
Oh, got it. Okay, great. Okay, so the capital budget was issued in for 21-22. The overall spend, I believe, was 5.7 million. Not I believe, I know, was roughly 5.7 million. To date, we have a total of roughly 4.5 million in purchase orders issued. Of that 4.5 million, 4,276,000 pertains to the 5.7 2021-2022 budget, and 279,000 roughly pertains to prior year encumbrances. Scroll down. So far this year, we've got closed purchase orders of 894,000 and a savings of 99,000 pertaining to those closed purchase orders. Okay, we've got a couple of items, big items. Well, one big item in particular that we have not issued purchase order for. That's the Beardsley Pool Wall and Decor improvement, which was roughly 100,000. And then there's 13 other items that are less than 100,000, totaling 349,000. In our allowances, we budgeted 395,000 for the year, and to date, we've spent 89,000 of that. We're leaving a remaining balance of 306,000. Some of the items that were covered, or some of the items that we spent in that allowance, are the R.H. Johnson tenants, concrete, and repairs. And the we had a Great Plains upgrade, our accounting system was included in that as well, that we're in the process of completing. So those are the couple of the items that we spent in the 89,000 of allowances. This is a detailed reserve fund analysis, which is a little wordy. So Pete creates a slide just kind of explaining where we're at. So for budgeted percentage of FFB for 2021-22 is 58%. That's with projected inflows of 6.3 million. And the operating cash flow currently at 918,000 favorable to budget. Investment earnings net of fees projected amount of 430K versus 390K to budget. APF's currently at 580K favorable to budget. Projected outflows of 5.7 million. That's the capital budget for this year, and closed purchase order savings of 99,000 and remaining allowance of 306,000. There is a reserve fund valuation change currently of 168,000, and the projected FFB for June 30th, 2022 is 55%. Any questions on the capital items?
You do? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question on the irrigation, the 5.3 million. I'm not questioning that figure. My question is more in smoothing out these larger costs and moving it over a 2-year period, so that the 5.3 million would be half in 2022-23 and the other half in 23-24. Managing that financially so there's a smoother, there's a couple other areas where you don't do that, like roofs coming up is one big bill as opposed to moving across 2 or 3 years and smoothing that out. what's the thoughts or the rationale on that?
Defer to Bill on that.
Hi, Kathy. Thank you, Ann. There's a legal issue there. And so when you go out to bid, i.e. for the golf course, and we don't really know, I mean, I know you're happy with the $5-point-something million that we're projecting for Grandview's golf course coming out of this year's projected budget. Separating that over a 2-year period, anything can change. Board members change, those types of things. So when you go out to bid, that money needs to be there contractually for us to sign a legitimate contract. And so to separate that over 2 years contractually can become a problem.
You could set up 2 contracts, though, and divide the project into parts. It's something I'm just very used to seeing, but I don't think it's a legal issue. I think it's more managing the contract in separate pieces, the project in separate pieces.
Yeah.
So one might be replacing the pipe, one might be doing the water lift station, whatever you're doing there.
We've done
So,
that.
Yeah.
So $800,000 of that project is being taken care of this year. In not touching the pipe scenario, we're doing wells and the lift system as far as everything to bring the water out of the ground. That's being contracted for design and a little bit of implementation when it comes to replacing some of the pipe that goes underneath roadways. That's going to have to be done. So that portion of the program has been kind of vetted out, allowing us to make some of those improvements. But the big ticket is the irrigation system, and that's a one-piece program when you go out and bid that. So that's kind of where we're at as far as that goes. So essentially, it's been a 2-year program, but when you bid a particular project, that has to be all buttoned up and funded.
Other questions from the committee about the capital? Thank you, Cliff.
All right, now the fun
Let me
one,
just
the
clarify
budget.
that. When I say don't agree, I just don't have enough information to really understand it. So I think that's the right answer.
Okay. Okay, so you all have a budget packet. It's also listed on the board docs, which give a more detailed version of the presentation. So the presentation is going to be highlighting the areas on the detail that we're focusing on for the budget of 22-23. I'd like to preface this by saying there's a couple of things that we've done. One, we've taken the actual 21-22 through November and added the budget from December through June to come up with our projection for 21-22. And then we'll talk about the assumptions of the budget itself. But when we're comparing to projected 21-22, that's how we came up with our projection. Okay? So if we can go to the presentation. Maybe one over to the right, I think. Oh, sorry. It's the budget presentation. I'm not sure which tab it is on there. I'm sorry. Oh, there we go. Okay. So the operational capital budget presentation for 22-23, this is our first draft and the date of 2/22/22. Which I think if you do that backwards, it says the same thing. Yeah. Okay. All right, so we always have these goals in mind when we're developing our budget. Okay, so the primary goal is to preserve, protect, and maintain and enhance the assets of the association. This is met through capital and operational spending. Okay, so to meet or exceed the minimum reserve funding requirement established by the governing board, which is 40% of fully funded balance, we also, more detailed about that. So we built in some assumptions with this budget, okay? And, we're looking at, on the expense side, we're looking at wage adjustments, we're looking at health insurance premium increases, overall inflation increases and pressures, and specific changes to expense items in our operating budget. So not only are we looking at an overall change, but we're also looking specifically at different line items that we'll talk about later. To address these needs, on the revenue side, we're looking at a member dues increase. Also, we're assuming rounds and lineage for bowling hold the line. So we've had very favorable rounds in golf, and also very favorable bowling numbers on lineage. So we're looking at increasing fees in those areas, but at the same time, we're looking at holding the line on those, on the sales in those areas. And then also to help bolster our reserve funding, we are also assuming an APF fee increase. This is a look at the overall financial statement, which is included, it's hard to read, I know. It's included, though, in the budget packet, the details on that. But just a couple of things I want to highlight on here before we start drilling into everything. First of all, on the revenue side, we're looking at a 6.3% increase in revenue, okay? Affected by those assumptions. But really that 6.3% increase in revenue is to help us address the challenges that we're looking at for the next year. Payroll, 60% of our expense is payroll. And we are in the service business. So we have to make sure that we're being competitive in the market and retaining our employees. Operating expenses, we're looking at an overall 5% inflationary factor year over year to projected, okay? Right out of the gate, that's what we're looking at. And then some of those expense changes I touched on earlier, there's some specific things that are driving costs in those areas, and we'll talk about those. If you look at the operating cash inflow outflow here, you'll see the budget helps us maintain that $1.5 million positive inflow, which goes right to the reserve fund. Okay, how are we going to address these expense challenges? So keep in mind, in the previous year, we had no dues increase. At the same time, we're experiencing those inflationary pressures this year. So, the increase in $419,000 is attributable to an increase in 5.6% or $28 in our membership dues, okay? This equates to $2.34 a month. We feel with what we're looking at in terms of costs that this is a nominal increase. We understand the impact of it in terms of what it means to our community and our members. We know that there's community members that are on fixed incomes, and so we took all this into account when we looked at this increase, and we feel that this will help us address the challenges that we're talking about. If you compare us in the surrounding area, communities, Sun City, which has, I believe, twice as many homes as us, their fee is $248 per person. We feel that our community is at a different standard. We feel that our amenities are at a better standard, and we want to keep that standard as well. If you look at us compared to Sun City Grand, Sun City Festival, it's over $800 per person based on the rooftop rate, and so we feel very, very comfortable with where we sit in terms of the value that you get for your fee here, and we want to keep that value. Another item we're looking at is golf. We presented a fee increase presentation. We had a presentation on February 10th at the golf committee. explained the areas that we were looking at in terms of increases, salaries and wages, and chemicals and fertilizers. Seed is going up again. And explaining all that to the golf committee, they were very receptive, and they said, we've got to do something. The golfers need to pay for some of this. And so we sat down, we proposed a $2 across the board golf rate increase by golf type, so meaning course, time of day, and time of year, straight across the board. And the feedback that we got for them was very positive. In fact, they said, why don't we do a little bit more for our outside play? Because, we want to, make sure that they share a little bit more burden than our members do in the community. So we added $1 on top of that for the rate increase for outside play and guests. Again, we're assuming that the rounds play are going to be over 320,000. We're projected at 324,000 this year. Last year we were 326,000 rounds, which is very good. And Pat and Todd and their teams do a great job of presenting a great product. And we feel very good about that. But again, presented this at the committee, and they were on board 100%. Bowling is really, the sports pavilion has really come into its own. It's been nice to see year over year. Again, for the past 2 years, no rate increase in bowling. So presented at the January 12th Sports Pavilion Committee meeting was an overall 7% increase in per lineage, and it was received very well. And to help cover those challenges again, that we're going to have, they were very receptive and on board with that. And the impact of that will be $57,000 in revenue. In your budget packets that you have, you'll see a P&L for each of those divisions that we're talking about here, where G&A, sports pavilion, golf. You'll see a P&L in there, and we'll go over this later, but we'll talk about, especially John, to your point, and Anita, to your point on the salaries and wages. We'll see the impact in those departments on salaries and wages and what we're looking at. Okay, ancillary revenues. Again, golf carts, golf club rentals, range balls, cell tower revenue. We're budgeting a $1 increase for golf carts. Last year we budgeted an increase, and this year we're budgeting another increase for golf carts. And look, that's the fuel, the maintenance, the oil, all those things go into the costs of those golf carts, and everything pertaining to any vehicle is increasing. I mean, it's crazy. So good time to sell a used car if you're looking to sell a car. But anyway, so we're looking at an increase here of 200,000. This number is skewed a little bit because of the way the projection is in this department. We've been under budget in this area for this year because we were unsure of the impact of COVID or what was going to happen there. So the $200,000 increase is on that projected amount, which is probably a little bit light. So the increase year over year at the end of this year will probably not reflect $200,000. Okay, special events. We're open for business in special events, which is very good. Obviously we're assuming that there is a big assumption here that COVID is not going to impact in the way that it has, and in special events, I was just talking to I was just talking to Susan in my department, and she lives in the community, and just talked about the Buddy Holly concert this past weekend, and she thought it was the best thing. She said the act was excellent, and all the acts in this series have been great, and we're taking that positive feedback from our community members, and we're really going after events hard. We're really going to provide a lot of special events in 22, 23. And we've also invested in a new ticketing system to help with that, where we can target our members for their rates and target outside for increased rates. And we feel like the impact of this will be a 242,000 positive year-over-year increase in special events. Okay, so let's get into some of these challenges that we need to address. First and foremost is the wage increases, the wage increase of $1,035,000. This is due, what's driving this is that we talked about doing a market adjustment on July 1st. Our baseline hourly rate for a full-time employee is $13.20 an hour right now. We're competing against fast food restaurants that are paying $16 to $18. Okay? We've got to bring that up to $15 an hour. We have to. These are people that are full-time employees here that are, they're here full-time. They're committed to us. And we want to keep them. The cost of replacing an employee is in the thousands. When you have to advertise for a new employee, when you have to train that employee, when you have to go through all of the costs in getting them up to speed, it's very expensive. So we have to retain our current employees, and we have to be able to be competitive in the market. And the service industry is very competitive. It is very competitive. So, that we're proposing to taking that $13.20 an hour person, increasing them to $15 an hour, and then we'll have a problem, right? Because we're talking about compression in those areas. Now so we have to take that and basically extend it across the board to all of our FTEs so that we can address that compression issue that gets created. We're excluding managers in this. So this is just all FTEs that are non-managers. July 1, we're proposing a $1.80 increase to get that baseline to $15 an hour, and then also address the compression issue that's going to create. Then coming back on performance-based, merit increases for January 1, 2023. We have our evaluation process. We have our merit increase process. We also budget that in this number. And then again on the, not again, but also in the minimum wage area, the adjustment, we're estimating a 5% inflation. So we're estimating a 5.8% increase coming off a 5.3% increase this year in minimum wage. Now, I know there were some specific questions about the impact that John had of these wage increases. So again, we'll flip back when we're done with this to the budget packet, but we can look at the specific departments, both, the sports pavilion, golf, G&A, rec centers, and see the impact of what those wage increases are in those areas.
Can I just comment?
Yeah.
A little bit on some of the things that John and I don't know if Anita brought it up earlier, if I may. I mean, this is not news, right? There is a labor shortage in this country. So let's refine that back down to where we are and who we are. We're not Amazon. We can't be paying the $20 an hour with gigantic signing bonuses to bring people in. We just got through with a whole pile of data collection when it comes to our master plan update. That'll be presented at the workshop for the governing board on March 11th. Independent study of Gen Xers, people that are potentially moving in here. What are they looking for? People 45 to 60. What are their interest levels? And so some of the things that have really come out of that study, I think, are pretty important. And those lie in the world of who we are. 40 years ago, when this community was built, and Sun City built even earlier than that, most people at the retirement age were kind of the same generation. Retirees, moving in, enjoying the benefits and the wonders of all the amenities that we have here. Over time, things changed. People have aged. They've aged out. New people have come in. So we are now in an environment where we're dealing with 50-year-olds to 100-year-olds. And so, yep, there's a problem with fixed income on the elderly. I get it. And there are people that are enjoying in their 70s and late 60s and 80s the benefits of everything that they've done to get them here and living wonderfully in a beautiful environment, experiencing tremendous amenities here that are very, very well kept. And then you have the newbies that are coming in. And when you talk to them in membership, signing on, taking their pictures and giving them their recreation cards and talking about the $497 or the $525, you know, they look at you like, a month? No, that's annually, right? So it's a wonderful deal, and in their minds and the emails that we get, a lot of the new folks in here less than 5 years are like, they're willing to spend. Improve this place. We want restaurants. We want this. We want that, right? But if you weigh that amongst the fixed income folks, they're saying, hell no. Excuse me, this is televised, isn't it? I'm sorry. So it's a balancing act of what we have to do. And I think there's some slides coming up, and if not, there's definitely some ancillary slides that we have. But, you know, we hire a lot of people every year. We can't retain them. It's a unique environment. Things have changed. The world's changed with COVID and electronics and everything else like that. We've got employees that have been here for 30 plus years. When they come to work that don't live here, when they come to work in the morning, headlights were going all one direction. You didn't see anybody leaving Sun City West, heading back toward the valley for employment at 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning. Now, different story. Heavy stream. People are still working, living here, right? And so finding those types of employees is very, very tough. Managers can well work into their retirement years from home. So we're dealing with that, man. In the age of this, I mean, this is my bank, this is my office, and this is all my friends right here. And, you know, younger folks live that way. So our membership services group, you know, we're changing every day as far as trying to stay as up to speed as we know how. But in the world of the service industry, which we are, right, you can't flip a burger from home. And you can't monitor a gymnasium or a recreation center or mow grass from home. We need bodies. And unfortunately, we don't really have the magnet to bring in the young ones, right? It's tough to find a kid that's going to stay committed to mowing grass for 30 years, right? It's a very, very hard sell and a tough market that we're up against, but we do our best. And we are at a point now where Cliff mentioned earlier, we got a lot of empty seats. And in the 4 years that I've been here, 3.5, we've dropped in the number of FTEs significantly. Yep, we're doing that to be efficient, but we also have a tough time filling those seats. And we're at a point, I think, that, you know, not much more blood's in that turnip. And we are stressing people out. It's unfortunate. People are leaving for those sign-on bonuses and working in air conditioning and warehousing. And as you tour and go around the 303, I mean, it's warehouse village. And so there's a lot of indoor labor, and a lot of the things we do is not that. So it's a very unique situation we find ourselves in. The average age of our employee is well into their 60s. Half of our employees live here. And so we rely on that. But then again, you have to think of a lot of people that live here now work outside the walls. We see that every morning coming to work. And so it's a tough find for us, and we're not making light of it, but we are doing, at least within this budget, everything that we can kind of financially to balance. And it's tough, and I'll leave it at that, but we can certainly have more discussion as you see what we're up against, but I'll kind of just leave it at that as a little color commentary. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bill. Yeah, so that's you know, salaries and wages. That's what we're looking at, that increase right now. Let's move on to benefits. Our health insurance premiums increased 20% in 2022, as of January 1, 2022, excuse me. So we are budgeting that increase for the second half of the year of 2022, and then estimating a 15% renewal increase for 2023. Some of the pressures that are kind of driving this up is, the claims to premium ratio for our plan. We actually paid out more in claims than we paid in premiums in 2021. So that obviously impacted our renewal rate for 2022. And then the outside kind of national healthcare costs are going up, and these are the pressures that are kind of driving those increases. Spoke about this a little earlier, for employee retention purposes. The team got together and said, what can we do to help, in these costs? That's a benefit to our full-time employees and also will help retain those employees. So we're still carrying that, 15% contribution rate from the employee into 2023 that we enacted this year.
And I just wanted to add to that, in discussion with these employee contributions going up 5% and the minimum wage going up 5%, it was like, well, here's your raise. And then we come around the next day and take it back and say, due to the employee health charges, your raise is gone. And so that was our decision on how do we continue to balance, how do we retain people, how do we make these employees want to stay here. This was an attempt to help them out.
Okay, moving on to operating expenses. Again, we have an assumption of a 5% inflationary increase across the board on this. We had a couple of things that we're investing in as well. There's the investment in the club software, which is helping us in space utilization. Also help us address those, salary and wages in terms of, where are we pulling our resources and when, and what makes the best sense operationally. So we're doing that, operationally to make sure, we're watching, we're doing our job. We're watching the assets of this association by doing that. And that took an investment. Also, we have, I don't know if you've noticed the Cox trucks driving around the neighborhood. They are they're getting rid of 40-year-old infrastructure and laying fiber. Yay. But there's a cost to that. There is. And so we're going to experience some of that cost. And then we're also, I don't know if any of you were at the golf courses recently and the system went down and they couldn't charge your card. They couldn't process your transactions. We're budgeting basically a rollover contingency for our IT. And basically what happens in that event is if RH Johnson goes down, everything goes down. And Katie and her team have come up with a plan to have a contingency 4G rollover when that happens, so that we might be a little slower, but we won't skip a beat in terms of being able to process those transactions. So that's also budgeted in here, and it's what's driving that $176,000 operating expense increase. Utilities, we've made some great strides year over year in utilities with the improvements that we've done in the lighting projects and the parking lot lighting projects that have been completed, but the cost of energy is going up, and we put a 5% inflation factor in there for that. We feel that'll cover it, so that's causing a $101,000 increase in utilities year over year. R&M, repairs and maintenance. Again, inflationary factor, but one of the things that's kind of really driving this increase is those subcontractor services that we're currently using right now. We're still budgeting some of those for unfilled seats, and the cost of that labor is going up. We plan on doing Echo Mesa is going to be closed for some period of time in this budget cycle, and we plan on whenever we close a course, Todd and his team get in there and they do a overhaul of the tree trimming and all that, because it's not something that they can do operationally as well when there's golfers on the course. So that's budgeted in here as well. And then we have at Palm Ridge parking lot. It was a recommendation by the company that put that down that we seal and stripe that again after 4 years. I'm sorry, after 2 years. 12 to 18 months. Thank you, Carl. 12 to 18 months, and we budget that in there, and that'll extend the life of that asphalt. Did they say how many years it would extend it? So after initial install of brand new asphalt, you must seal it between 12 and 18 months, and then it's every 3 to 4 years after that. So after the initial install, if you didn't hear that, you must seal it, and what it does is it helps extend the life. They've done studies on it, and it helps the life of the asphalt, even though you just did it 12 months prior. Okay, interest and financial expense, those credit card fees we talked about earlier. We've seen a steady increase here with the usage of people using their credit cards to pay, and we're forecasting a $35,000 increase there based on prior year increases. You can pay online, so you don't have to pay in the membership office with a, oh, sorry. More people are, it's just one of the avenues that people are using their credit cards. That's why it's in there. Use transactions, absolutely. Yep. Transaction increase, which, you get a transaction fee and then you get the fee on top of it. It averages about 3%. Landscape maintenance, we presented this at the golf committee meeting on February 10th. Any petroleum-based product, Todd said there are some items that are 180% increase, bidding them out. 180%. So we looked at those areas. Grass seed, it went up this year. It's going up again. These areas are just huge increases year over year. These are the challenges that we're faced with what's going on in the economy. So the increase in these areas is 280,000 impact year over year. So in summary, on the operating cash flow, we've got budgeted $27 million in revenues, $25.6 million in expense, with a net inflow of $1.5 million versus a projected operating inflow this year of $2.26 million. On the capital related side, we're proposing a $100 rate increase in our APF fees from $3,700 to $3,800. This is to help bolster that reserve fund. Now, that being said, we're on pace for 1,349 projected home sales or title changes this year. Historically, it's been 1,200 annually. We're going to budget the 1,200 because there are some pressures with, the Fed and higher interest rates. We feel like that's going to cause lending and interest rates on lending to increase. Also, higher home prices. It's less desirable if the home prices are higher. And then just reduced inventory. We feel that the home sales are going to come down to the traditional 1,200 per year. So that's causing a decrease in APF fees of $356,000, the net effect of the increase, and then the decrease in title changes. we'll see what happens there. Hopefully, it comes in higher than we're budgeting, but we don't feel comfortable budgeting the same amount of 1349 year over year. And then if you compare our rates at 3,800 to Sun City and Sun City Grand, that's how we compare. So we're still competitive in that area, especially for the value that you get for that when you come into the community. Our reserve fund analysis, the fully funded balance is projected to be at 54%, which achieves the budget goal minimum of 40%, and the FFB projected is projected to be at no less than 50% over the next 5 years. Okay, so can you bring up the budget packet? I think it was to the right. 3.03B, maybe? There we go. Yes. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so this portion of the presentation is open for questions and comments, and then we will refer to this budget packet to maybe drill into some of those areas that you might have questions on. We'll also just kind of generally go down through this. So before I start, are there any questions or comments on the assumptions or goals or kind of overall thoughts?
Let's just go around. Nita?
Yeah, just a quick question. In regards to the budget regarding the salaries for the vacant positions, are those being estimated at $15 an hour, or is there a difference in the budget for those open positions?
Those open positions are budgeted based on the rates. We have salary ranges for different rates, so those seats are actually being budgeted, and the rate that was in that seat before it was vacated is used for the budget. So it can vary. It can be. Oh, so you're asking, is the increase? Yes, it is.
Okay.
Sorry.
I just want to make sure, because if you're budgeting something that a person vacated at $12
No.
an hour and everybody else is making $15. Okay, thank you.
Yes, we accounted for that. You're welcome.
If I may, while you guys are thinking of a question, there's one thing I'd like to comment on, and that's recently been raised. It's raised all the time, but most recently in a local newspaper, talking about subsidies. And I just wanted to, Martin, Johnson, are you running these slides? Oh, you are? Michael? Can you drop down to golf, please? Yeah. Go up. Go a little higher. Keep going.
One more. There you go.
Okay. Cliff, with your pointer,
Yeah.
can you take me to where we were years past as far as operating expenses
Okay.
subsidy?
Okay, so operating expenses are, you can see here, roughly 10 million. Forecasting 10.7 in 21-22 current year, and budget 11.7.
Yeah, but in the actual, on the line item, in the actual column of 2021, you're going to see in the operating cash flow, inflow, outflow,
Right here.
the dark bolded line, you're going to see in 2018-19, we subsidized golf to the tune of 1.4 million, 2 million, last year down to $521,000. So if you take those numbers and divide those by 7, we have 7 golf courses. The subsidy are relatively small in the world of operating that business. Golf brings in, at the top, you'll see, close to $9 million in revenue. So there's you hear talk about selling golf courses or getting rid of a golf course and this, that, and the other thing. That would be a very, very tough deal, right? In our lifetime, we would be in court longer than we'd ever want to because of the homes that surround these pieces of property and how we deal with that, not to mention the rules and regulations of the perpetuity laws and those types of things. So the golf subsidy is relatively minimal for the property values that the golf courses provide the residents here of an increased value. Surveys do say anywhere from 15 to 30% increase in property value due to the golf course properties. And so comparing that, and where I'm going with that is, you know, you also hear, I don't golf, why do we pay for golf? Well, we pay for a lot of things here. There's a brochure, a trifold brochure that's on our webpage, and I believe it's not in this budget packet, but anything from air conditioning costs to taking care of swimming pools to paying our bank fees, everything that we do are kind of assessed into a very large collection of our operational expenses, which is really a subsidy. And so just because you don't golf, you think your annual dues should come down. The same thing could be said for, well, I don't go to the gym or I don't swim or those types of things. But, you know, laughingly, in my former world of parks and recreation, kind of know what things cost, various types of parks. Parks typically don't bring in a whole bunch of revenue. They are just amenities that provide niceties to communities. Swimming pools. There are 3 drains at the bottom of every swimming pool. 1 is for water, 2 is for money. It costs a lot to maintain swimming pools. And so switch, if you can, to the recreation side.
I got it, Mike.
And looking at that same line item.
Oh, can you
Last
scroll
year-
it down? Sorry.
Last year, when we were talking about a $500,000 subsidy on the golf courses, our recreation centers, aquatics and gymnasiums, cost us about $5.5 million. Right? And so that's subsidy. Those are all your owner member dues helping to offset the cost of operating those facilities. And so I think there's an educational program I think that we should probably work on enacting to kind of get that word out. And I think if we fall short administratively of maybe doing something, that might be it. But that's the word that really, really needs to get out. I think we do a pretty good job when new people come in. We give them that trifold brochure to explain what their membership dues go for. But we still have a lot of education, I think, to go when it comes to who we are and what we do. And I think part of the, you know, working in the master plan and doing surveys and talking to people is really the way to go. But, you know, when it comes to facts and findings, it's all right here. We are as transparent as we know how. If you have any questions on line items or spending, please come visit. I mean, our books are open, and we'll do everything we can to talk our way through this. Thank you.
I have a
Thank
quick
you.
question on something. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You made a statement that we'd be taken to court. What's that based on? I mean, do we have legal obligations that you can point to that say if we cut back on the golf, we'd be taken to court?
Well, you have surrounding properties that have alignment with golf courses. If those were to develop into homes and the golf course were to go away, I think there would be people that would challenge their property values declining because of that.
But I mean, can you point to something that says that we're obligated to maintain the golf course in perpetuity?
Yes.
Then it's out there.
Yeah. Out there?
Yeah, I mean, it's out there. The legal department has said, hey,
Yes.
we're going to have this, we have to do this. Because like, I've also heard from people, you know, everybody
There's
puts
a,
up.
well, I want to change the word from, I don't want to don't hold me to perpetuity.
Okay.
Because the governing board can decide to do whatever they want to do. But what I could point you to is contractually, you would have a 10-year window before you could do anything.
Okay. Okay, because I hear that from people that, okay, where's the contractual arrangement that says we have to maintain this?
Right. So in order to convert any of those golf courses to any other kind of service, you would have to oblige contractually and legally you would have to provide those property owners around that golf course a 10-year window of notice. Mr. Bozak?
Doesn't every golf course have a separate deed restriction?
That is true.
And they're staggered.
Let's continue going around with questions. Dick?
I think I have more of a comment than I have a question, is your issue with labor. I think that is so understated. I mean, I commend you for the creative things you're doing here, but we went to Starbucks this morning, and all of the employees in there are part-time, I guarantee you. They're probably making $15 an hour, and they're sporting T-shirts that say college tuition plus $15 an hour.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, who are you competing? Whatever you do, I'm going to tell you, it's not going to be enough.
Yeah.
So I applaud you. I think these are creative things that you're doing. And I hope I don't live to regret saying this. I don't think it's enough.
Yeah. Well, you know, we do also capitalize on, I started here in August. I love working here. I really do. I love serving this community. I love being involved in all the things I'm involved in. I love my work environment. I love the benefits. You know, so I think we take some of those things for granted sometimes, but we definitely consider those as well. But you're correct. It's you can't undersell it. Or I'm sorry, you can't oversell it. You really can't. What's happening in the job market and, you know, the economy right now. And but, you know, we feel like we have a good plan.
Kathy? Julie?
Yeah, I support the budget and the increases. I think I would comment more on our revenue sources, which are really kind of small in terms of our options there. If our membership dues are going up, is it 5.6%? Do I have that percent right?
That's correct,
Okay.
$28.
Then, as we look at other fees that we have, whether it's golf or bowling, and I saw bowling, you had a 7% increase in fees, but I'm not sure what we had in golf because you didn't put the percentage in there. So I think it's important to reflect
Okay.
that in our presentation, so there's a good understanding of, you know, how we're trying to manage this. And, you know, the question would be too, you know, particularly, and I don't want to steal Richard's comment potentially, is outside players on the golf course maybe paying, instead of the $3 increase, maybe a $5 increase. I don't think that will hurt us, to be honest.
Yeah.
With the play that's there. But, so I do support that. And then I had a question on the membership fee increase. Doesn't that become effective July 1? So it's not in our.
That's correct.
It's not in our fiscal year, but it's in the middle.
Yes.
July 1. So only, just, this is more of a point of information. We're only going to see half the revenue.
That's
and then
correct.
half in the other 6 months. And that's important to keep in mind too.
Yes, and that's reflected in the 419.
Yeah, and then on the APF fees, I would be an advocate, instead of increasing it $100 each year, I'd go for the $200 right now and then sit silent for a year.
Thank you. And just a comment on golf fees. We did have a conversation with the golf committee, and we obviously internally as well. But when it comes down to golf analysis like that, whatever we charge the outside folks, which is great, a great recommendation, of that 324,000 rounds that are generated out there at our golf courses, outside play calcs to about 50,000. So doing the math in your head is
So
kind of,
a $1 increase is a $50,000 increase to the budget?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know those units, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah. And so the percentage, we do have it on the,
But that's still more than one.
sure, yes. So the
Another $100,000 put into it.
okay. The increase, the total increase is 7% in revenue. So that's reflective of the increase, 7%, but we can get the exact numbers on the rounds play percentage.
Richard, do you have any other comments?
Got a couple of questions. Okay. Have we ever done a competitive study with any of the other golf courses to compare our fees to be able to say, hey, we're in line annually? And that, are we at the bottom end? Are we in the middle?
I wish I had those slides, Bill, with me, but I don't. I don't have them with me. We presented to the golf committee that those a very good visual of that.
Upper end to middle.
Or in the middle?
Richard, I might say, if you go back on the board docs portal, you can go to the golf committee meeting of February 10th, and that slide will be there. We'll
Okay.
show all that.
Thank you. Another question I think I would need to be answered is Sun City West is showing $248 per person. We're showing $525. They have 7 golf courses, I believe, and about 5 rec centers. So if I was standing in front of somebody who's not in this committee, how would I justify that to them?
You want to say something, Carl? Well, it's relative to Sun City, and I live there.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a standard, I believe. Do you golf?
No.
Okay. That's probably the easiest way to kind of depict a differentiation in the shelf of where you put things. There's top shelf, there's middle shelf, and there's lower shelf, right? I think our recreation centers The amenities that we offer are, I think, at a level that Sun City's not at. I could definitely say the same thing with our golf courses and the amount of maintenance that goes on at our facilities. I think they are at a quality level that is strived for by any and all in a golf business. And I think if you've read any versions in the Independent recently of the $20 million behind Sun City has laid claim to be just in the world of IT. The fact that they have an aesthetic lake in the middle of their community that continues to leak, that they pay fines for, that they haven't used their capital resources in which to repair that. They've been paying penalty to the Arizona Department of Water Resources. I mean, so there's a lot of things infrastructure-wise that exist in Sun City that maybe don't exist here. So they really know that they need to uptick their maintenance standards, and they are going about doing that, but it is a big, big financial ticket for them.
Okay, thank you. The only thing I'm gonna make a comment on, if we're gonna raise fees to $525, we need to start socializing this. Because, you know, deep explanations as to why we're doing it, because people are gonna howl. I mean, I hear from some people in the discussions, why are we doing this? Why do I subsidize this? Why do I do that?
And that leans back to a little bit of my statement that I made a little bit earlier. You know, we've got like a 3-phased process here with our residents. You know, we definitely hear it from some of the folks on fixed income and that type of thing. I mean, heck, the price of gasoline and the price of meat, you know, just on everyday spending is rising. And so anytime the cost of anything goes up, we hear about it. Obviously, there's going to be, you know, people that are a little bit fixed as far as financial wares go. They're gonna be very loud. But then again, you know, we've got the whole regime of the younger folks moving in here that think we don't spend enough. And these fees are, you know, they're somewhat shocked that they're annual as opposed to monthly. So, I mean, it's there. I know education is something that we have to get the word out on. But again, if we roll back through the program that Cliff presented, I mean, we're handed a lot of increases that are completely out of our control, but we have to make amends for those, from minimum wage to the cost of insurance to the cost of utilities to, I mean, there's a whole bunch of items that we face that we're seeing increases on that have to be addressed.
Thank you.
And we are, you know, this budget process is certainly getting the word out, but we've talked internally as well about some publications, radio, things like that. Once we start to form this budget and it becomes more solid, getting the word out for sure. And then I'll also say, piggybacking on what Bill said, you know, the amount of homes in Sun City, I think we have about 17.5, and Sun City has twice as many. So the revenue generated is about the same in terms of per home.
I might say, for all my committee too, this is the first time this budget's being shown to anyone.
The first time.
And I think we are giving you all some good feedback that may show some things that you'll want to include in the presentation going forward too. So these are all good questions. John?
Thank you, Ann. Sadly, I've got about 5 or 6 comments I want to make. I'll try to be as brief as I can, though, understanding that. First of all, I want to congratulate all the people that worked on this budget. This thing is well-crafted and well thought out. I'm sitting here going through this, and I'm saying to myself, I couldn't have done this. This is a very, very good document. Having said that, I also want to say that I completely agree with our general manager's comments about the increase in age diversity and interest diversity in the community, and we as a community have to expand to meet those needs. That's our job. That's what governments do. They provide services. So that's my preamble. I have the same concerns that Dick has about the salary increases. If I did my math right, I came out with an an average wage increase moving from $13.20 an hour to like $15.80 an hour, and that's about 20%. We have unfilled positions. If we continue with unfilled positions, and if we don't allow for it, that quality will have to suffer. It's inputs and outputs, okay? My concern is that in the effort to put together such a tight document, that maybe we're being too restrictive and not reflecting what we might see in terms of salary increases going forward. And the community might be better served if we allowed for more. And I know that doesn't play well with the public, but I'd rather have enough resources available to the people than to run the risk of cutting services. And so I would just say, I see a bias in here that if there's any redos, I'd make sure that we were very, very solid, that we could actually live within those salary increases. I think the 8.7 is low compared to what's happening outside that we have to compete with. And I prefer services over cuts. That's one comment there. I have a question on number 2, and that is, we have a lot of open positions. Does anybody have a rough idea of what percentage of our workforce those open positions represent? In other words, if we have 100 employees, or are we open 20 positions, and that's 20%, or are we at like 5% open positions? Anybody have even a ballpark estimate?
Yes, we have some numbers. We can go back and get detailed numbers, but in the golf maintenance area, we are light currently by 15 to 18% employees.
Now, what would that be on a percentage of?
I have that. I don't have it in front of me,
Okay.
but I can get it to
I don't
you.
mean to play 20 questions.
No, it's a
about
great question.
How vulnerable? I'm trying to get more metrics about how vulnerable
Yeah.
we are on services.
So just to give you an idea,
Can I just interject here, John?
15%.
On page 15 of the
Yeah, I just pulled it up.
budget, the total FTEs are in there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I was
great.
going to say that.
I can
So
do the math.
if you look at total FTEs in 2018-19, we were about 308, and 19 and 20, 313. Actual last year, 289. Current actual 287, and we budgeted 291.
Okay. That's not.
That's
as
in
bad,
total, but
that's
you
not
would
as
like
bad
to
as
see
I
it.
thought it was going to be. Actually,
Yeah. It's a constant struggle to fill positions, and you feel like, I know some of the rec centers are feeling it as well. Golf maintenance definitely, but yeah, we are definitely working hard at getting those positions filled without taxing the employees too much or without sacrificing service.
I'm glad it's not my job to have to fill those positions. I feel your pain.
Yeah, no, Marie does a great job in HR and her team. They
And
really
then
do.
my next comment, to move along quickly, is toward our general manager about going back to the subject of subsidies and how to educate and so forth. This is the way I approached it when I got this packet. I grabbed the $1 million golf minus, said, okay, that's an approximation of a subsidy. I divided it by 28,000 individuals, roughly the size of our community. I got $40. I did the same thing with the other details in there, and I got much larger percentage or per household subsidies. I think there's an avenue there, like a pie chart, that breaks these things out, might be very useful to people. I think the golf is much maligned for the subsidy. It's an easy target. It's an easy target that people can grab a hold of, and I think education, the facts always help. If we can all agree on the facts, we find that we have far less disagreements about what to do. Okay, that's the next one. The last comment I have is you might want to go back and double check one of the comments on the reserves as being over 50% for the next 5 years. I believe I saw a number at 47% about 3 or 4 years out there.
Yeah,
I suspect that somebody's got a little fat fingers with the calculator, and that's all. It's not a criticism at all.
can you scroll that down?
It caught my attention.
Yeah, so that was on the projected, you're correct, first of all, that was on the projected,
FFB.
yes,
Funded balance.
yes, for the December financial presentation, but with the budget increases and everything we put in, there's a
You
slide
got
on that where,
Okay.
where it holds the line at 50.
Bravo.
But
Well
yes.
done.
but good. I've got another one I'm going to ask you about here in a little bit, but we'll get through the questions.
Maybe we'll do that on a sidebar. Okay, I'm embarrassed enough. Thank you very much for your, listening to my comments.
Gary?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm not going to comb through the numbers because I've got a lot of questions that relate to that. I'd rather talk about two particular issues that I think are overviews to what you're dealing with this budget. I love the comment that you made about being intense about what your people are dealing with. And I would just say to you that you need to get intense with residents who abuse employees. We've got a lot of really bad stuff going on at the pro shops over issues that have no business being talked about the way they are. The disrespect for our employees is ridiculous. I'm sure some of that's a sign of the times, but don't be shy about calling people to task for abusing our employees. They work too hard, they do too much, they don't deserve that kind of garbage. Second point, to the subsidy issue, how many of you were here in 2015? Okay, good, not a lot. That's when that issue really heated up, and there was a person in the community who decided they were going to make a champion of themselves by closing a golf course because the subsidies were over $2 million then. $521,000 is heroic. I mean, that is phenomenal improvement. So those of you that weren't here, this particular person gathered a whole lot of support for 3 initiatives. Number one, every one of the 3 revenue-producing organizations had to be self-sufficient, had to pay their own way. And the purpose of doing that was to showcase the deficits in golf with the idea that we could close a golf course, which we already know is not going to happen. The second was that any project over $100,000 had to be voted on by the community, not by the governing board, but by the community. Talk about hamstringing an organization. And the third one was to restrict annual increases in the dues to the COLA, cost of living. So those days when we had votes in March for the governing board, we'd have 800 or 900 people vote. 2015, 2,000 people voted for those 3 bylaw changes. A lot, right? You know how many voted against it? 13,000 people. We stood in line at the library. It's the first year we voted at the library. Stood in line at that library for 2 hours waiting to vote because people were so passionate about individuals I call the vocal minority, not screwing around with the beautiful community that we have. And that's exactly what they were trying to do. So 87%, 85%, and 83% of the people who voted said, take your 3 bylaws and put them where the sun don't shine, because we're happy with what we got and we want to keep it that way. The work you've done on this budget, you shouldn't be shy about it. I agree with Dick. You probably ought to be more aggressive about it, but I understand you're the one that's got to take the heat. But don't be willing to take the heat from the vocal minority. The majority of people in this community want you to do the right thing, and you do it every single day, and you do it better than anybody else. Thank you.
Thank you.
George?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I have, this budget is well put together, well done. Your staff, Bill, Cliff, your staff. Do you have a staff, Cliff? I like that.
That person right there is the best, Terry West. She's awesome.
Absolutely looking at it. And my thoughts before I came to the meeting were, we're looking right now at a inflationary rate of 7.8%. We are looking at a consumer price index of 7.4%. Now, those numbers can't be combined together because there's things in there that don't apply to our budget directly. But when you look at it and you see a number overall of 6.3, I think that they have done yeoman work at that. Dick, Gary, to your point about the employees, yeah, I think that you're exactly right. We need an opportunity to maybe make it better. But this is the first time in our budget we have talked about this as a starting point. So the mission is there, the idea is out there, and it is absolutely imperative that we continue that conversation. And to that point, members and whoever's watching, if in fact it comes up, they can always approach the governing board at any one of our meetings and put in facts and findings together to increase it or change it. That's what it is. I think that it's well done. And Bill, to your idea of what you say about education, absolutely positive about the budget process. And I think what we do is, because our bylaws say each one of the divisions have to be separated, it causes us kind of a schism in how people see it. I've approached it like you say, John. When you look at it this way, the total budget of all divisions, and look at it as a big picture, it makes sense because you look at the recreation division side, and that's where that's where all revenue is. There's one in, is it the recreation? I'm not sure. I forget which one it is. But there's one where all the membership dues go into. And again, unless you start looking at it as a whole picture, it doesn't make sense. This is a budget that we should be, the staff, and Bill, your staff should be absolutely proud of in the amount of work and thought process that gone into it. Thank you, and thank your staff. Thank you, madam.
Welcome.
Well, first of all, I want to thank all of this committee for your wonderful, wonderful comments and questions. I agree with you all, and I especially echo Kathy's comment about if we're going to do any increases anywhere, we should be going up higher on non-resident golf, because I hear from friends who live in Grand and Portobello, I'm not going to play at my place. It's a lot cheaper to go to your place. And we get no reciprocity with or break with them. But that's up to the golf committee. But I don't think a $5 increase for them, even though it doesn't give us a lot of money, it sends a message.
Well,
So-
I've noted that, and we will definitely take that back into consideration.
Okay. Now I'll let you continue on if you know where you were.
No, I mean, first of all, and any help that we can get from this committee to help get the word out, I think would help too, especially if you're approached and asked, hey, this is what I heard or this is what I saw. We would definitely, all your comments are taken to heart, and we definitely appreciate any help. I was switching gears back to John. He caught that. His eyes pretty sharp. I was wondering if he caught anything on the sports pavilion department. If anything caught your eye on that P&L.
I generally live on the right side of the decimal point.
Well, I feel it necessary to point this out, and this was not done by design. I promise you. But if you look at the operating cash inflow year over year projected and budget, it's the exact same zero. And I promise you, maybe it's a omen related to 22, but that was not by design. That happened completely and totally by accident. So for all you numbers nerds out there like me, I figured you'd appreciate that. So I guess one other thing I'd like to go over is the capital spend projection. This also ties in with our reserve analysis. And without getting too much into the weeds, I mean, the 2023 has been presented. If you have any questions, Carl's here to answer them. But if you scroll to the bottom of this, it just kind of gives you a snapshot of what we're looking at for capital spend. And this kind of goes in waves, right? So we're kind of cresting right now on, over the next 3 years on some big projects. And the detail behind those projects is up in the body of the document. But you'll see, as we get into 26, 27, we're really got some favorable years for R&R spend in capital.
Any other questions from the committee on the budget presentation? Is that the end of it for you?
Yes, ma'am, that's everything. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, I have to tell you, Pete should be very proud of.
Pete should be
his-
nervous.
Yeah, Pete should be nervous. I
Well,
like that.
I tell you what, I don't want to be in his shoes right now. Not that I wouldn't do my civic duty, but.
Well, what you and Terry and the rest of the employees in our accounting department have presented is phenomenal. I've been on the side where you are. I did that for a long time. My unofficial title where I was the budget bitch, and I probably lived up to that at
Yeah.
times. But I know what goes into that. So
Yeah, well, a lot of work was put in by Terry and the rest of the department. Really, the legwork and, the grinding that's been done in that area has just been great. And I thank you for appreciating that. But it's not just Terry, but the management team as well. I mean, we've combed every line item. We've gone through every department. And we challenged our managers. We had a couple runs at it. So we feel confident about this budget, and I appreciate all your feedback.
if I'm not mistaken, you don't need any action from us today. This was just a presentation, and
Correct.
we gave you feedback, and
Which I've noted.
this is not the last time we will see this, folks. So, okay, next on our agenda, we're going to have a presentation from the Desert Garden Botanical Club, but I do not want to rush them, and I think everybody probably needs a 5-minute stretch break. So we're going to do that, and I apologize to the Garden Club. You're very patient. But I don't want you to feel rushed. So we'll take a 5-minute stretch break. presentation is going to be a lot more fun to see than the one that we just saw. Yes, it's about growing weed, George. That's what you wanted. But we have David Wiegand and Jim Consali. Did I botch your name, Jim? Did I botch it? No. Okay. And Pat Wanta. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. They are here from the Desert Botanical Garden, and they are going to give us a presentation of an idea that they have for a desert garden.
Okay. First of all, we're really excited at this point. Carl is our favorite person in the world right now because every week he gets our greenhouse a little bit closer. Anyway, the club is in the process of changing from a 501c7 social club to a 501c3 charitable organization. That proposal is in the hands of the IRS, and in their speedy fashion, we've heard nothing but they've cashed our check. At any rate, our new proposal, our bylaws state that our purpose is educational and charitable. It's the educational portion that brings us here today. What we are proposing is to transform the patio area outside the greenhouse over at Beardsley into a botanical classroom, a botanical garden, so to speak. We've allocated from our funds $15,000. So we are not here saying, give us some money. We're saying we'll pay for it. We just want to go ahead and do it. With that, we formed a committee, and these two people are the heart of that committee. Jim is a trained botanist and horticulturist, so he really knows the plants. Pat Wanta is a professional landscape designer. And so with her 20 years of experience, I think we've put together a really nice plan. With that, I'm going to turn over to Pat to explain what we would like to do.
Thank you for all being very patient, and we'll go through this very quickly so you don't have to stay here all day. If you look at the pictures, this first picture is the greenhouse site as it was. We ripped out the old greenhouse. You can see just the color on the wall, the back wall, that's where the greenhouse was. And it's now in the process of being built. They actually have the short walls in place, and so it's moving right along. Second picture, this is where one of the gardens that we want. This is divided into 5 different gardens in the botanical section. The first one being a lot of mounding and boulder work to give it a desert look, all plants that would be usable here within our Arizona area, our Phoenix area. And as you can see, there's quite a few cactuses involved because we're basically going to be cactus gardens. The second one, whoops, this isn't right. Well, we'll go forward anyway. The fourth and fifth, number 4 and 5 that are up here, those are gardens that one will be featuring cactuses and succulents predominantly. And the 5th garden, that would be with wildflowers and things that you can get readily available here also. In the 4th and 5th areas, the retention basins must remain. So it's not a flat piece of land that we're dealing with. There's a big ravine there, and we want to make it beautiful. Something that if you went out in nature and you would see these things growing, it would look fantastic rather than just a hole with a bunch of rocks in it. This is an overview of where the different gardens are. As you can see on here, there's actually 4 of them here. Number 2 would be the bottom left-hand side. 3 is closer to the greenhouse. The greenhouse is the darkened square to the top of the show. 2 is going to be predominantly Sonoran desert. That would include a saguaro and a cordon cactus. They are basically both saguaros, but one is from down in the Mexican area, and they grow a little bit different. And we want to be able to show people what is the difference between them. Going across, you can see there's a triangular area in front of the greenhouse. We want that to be our meet and greet section. Hopefully we can put in some type of a water feature there, a fountain of sorts, to draw people's attention to the greenhouse. The fourth one on the other side, on the right-hand upper corner, that's going to be the cactus and succulent garden, and then going down, that would be the butterfly garden, which would be the wildflowers. This one also shows the butterfly garden, and then it shows way on the bottom, that's the Clay Club space. That was designated for the Clay Club. We want to include that for improvement in our section, but also have them involved so that they have an area that they can call their own, and they're going to also provide us with their clay sculptures to put in our garden. And so it's a shared venture in that area. A couple other things that we want to look at is, as you can see, there's gates in the front of the garden area. In the gates, right now, everything is real bland looking, and we want to add color. The picture with the bright yellow just would indicate what the difference could be instead of just the tan wall, to throw some color out there around the gates so that it draws attention to the garden, to encourage people to come and stop by, come and take a look at what we're doing, come and learn about your plants and how you can beautify our area as a whole. They can take these ideas home with them and then improve their own properties. On the right-hand side, we have an arbor, a couple arbors, different variations. Down the road, we want to include an arbor next to the greenhouse and a small fountain. And we've got some spots included where we might want to put fountains, so we include those as improvements as well. And now we can turn this over to Jim, and he can talk about the money.
Yeah, thank you, Pat. Good.
This
Okay.
forward at that.
Right. We divided the budget in 3 segments. The first one, of course, are the basics, where we would get labor from outside of Sun City West. Basically, the labor would also include some equipment. They bring in the soil mixes and the boulders and rocks to create topography, some mounded areas that once it's in place, we can install the larger plant material. The second portion would be to supplement the existing plants that we've already grown for this botanical garden. And what we thought was we would get some larger plants that we could actually educate the public and show what is sustainable and what isn't sustainable in terms of water usage and other factors in our during our hot summers and whatnot. So those purchases would be done locally and support our educational effort. And the last portion would be the signage, which is important for us while we're there and have our plant sales to actually point to the plants and have them identified. So if there are any questions, I can answer at this time.
I've got a question for you, Jim. What's your timeline on this?
Well, our basic premise was to begin as soon as the governing board gives us permission. So that would be somewhere at the end of March.
Will this be using any labor or resources from our Sun City West employees?
We're in contact with Todd, and he's swamped, so probably not. His irrigation man would give us some direction, but it would be at our expense and our labor to improve the
We have
irrigation right now.
a large group of volunteers that are not just well-educated and growing, but they're also very hands-on. They know how to install irrigation. They know how to plant plants. They know how to create and build things. So we're trying to be as creative as we can with the existing budget.
And also, in terms of timeline, we don't see this being done in 6 months. It's probably 3 years before the whole thing was, looking like a garden again.
Okay, another question I have is, assuming you're going to be, digging up and we may have lines underneath there and what have you, if something gets busted because of that, do you have a way to cover that?
Well, there again, you have to do it right. It's just like right now, the power lines are marked. So if we're going to dig a hole, we're going to have to get the power lines marked again. We're in the process of finding out where the irrigation lines are right now, just because of that.
But you would be, the garden club would be responsible.
It would be our responsibility, yes.
If anything were to happen like that. I guess my last question is, you have a budget of $15,000, and that is money that you would deposit with the rec centers if this is approved, as I understand it. Is that correct?
I don't know how that process works. It's all approved by the rec center, as we spend it.
If it is approved before a purchase or before anything can be done, that money has to be deposited. Yeah. But I guess my next question is, who's going to be responsible for any cost overruns, if there are any? Because if you're looking at 3 years out, I think it's a great idea. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to poo-poo this at all. But I just want to make sure that we as a community are covering our bases. Prices could certainly go up over the next few years. So
absolutely. And following the same philosophy I'd have at home, we don't buy it until we have the money for it.
I like that. Okay. I'm going to open it up to my committee for any questions. George, I'll start with you.
Thank you, Ann. Listen, at a time you have a walk-through garden that showcases what our plants are here. I love it. I think it's great. The two questions that I have is, A, have you been through the properties committee with this yet for their approval?
I'm trying to think which ones we've been to and which ones we're scheduled for.
Properties
is coming up, correct?
They started with charter clubs?
Right.
Very good. And I'm sure you wouldn't be here unless you received a rousing approval from them.
Correct.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you. And my concerns were just as Ann stated. Thank you, Ann.
Great idea, and I think the community will benefit from it. It seems to me that you're going to have much more educational, much more of an educational setting. It's not going to reduce the amount of selling that you do, is it? You're still very intent on selling a lot of product, I hope?
That's the way we pay for our charitable organization, so yes.
Great, that's good, because I wanted to make sure that was true. And I have a thought. We've used your product a lot. We've got at least half a dozen different cactus in the yard. Great people over there, very knowledgeable, very helpful. Has anybody put a concentrated effort together to reharvesting from around the community? Many times you've been short of product, and I just want...
That's exactly where all of our, 99% of the plants come from harvesting from the community.
Okay. There's a lot available.
And Gary, I have personally had them come over and they've gleaned cactus from my yard, and it is a great, great opportunity for what's in your yard to be shared with everybody else. I think they took, got to be maybe 40 or 50 aloe vera plants out of it, and I still have too many. but they do a great job, great outreach to community.
Congratulations on a fabulous collection of ideas. I especially like the cross-pollination with the Clay Club. I think the community would benefit a lot more if we all could get out of silos and learn to work together for everybody's benefit. You're leading the way. This is great.
I agree. We're just now reaching out to the Metals Club because we've got some things that we'd like them to get involved, for instance, on the signage, if it'll work out with them. So,
bravo.
I've also contacted the glass and copper works that's right over there also.
Richard?
Like the idea, congratulations on pulling it together. I think it'll be a great addition to the community.
Kathy?
I think it's a great idea. I support it all the way.
I'm thrilled with it. I'm going to speak for my granddaughter. She would love the butterfly section part of it. The only, and I don't know if this is a question or an editorial comment, but $15,000 doesn't go very far.
we don't see that as the final cost.
Yeah.
That's at the stage we're at right now. Plus, we're thinking parts of it could be sponsored by other individuals or groups. There may be some landscaping companies that would come in and do parts of it for recognition. So, 15,000 is where we're starting from.
We were just down at the, to see the Chihuly, and I would encourage you to contact them to see if you could get a Chihuly. Boy, you'd get a lot of sponsorship then. So, but I'm thrilled with this. This has all the earmarkings of that big train, the G scale trains, that how well they have done that. And I would be very excited about this. I think it's a spectacular idea. And you sold me, you got me a butterfly.
Very good. Thank you.
Did you say you still have to go to properties?
Yes.
Okay, and I believe properties is the one that you would discuss any kind of sponsorships with. But I think that also needs to be brought out in your presentation, than what you're expecting in that in any way. Okay.
No naming rights. Oh, we were going to name it after you, Carl.
I'm not trying to speak for my committee, but I think I'm hearing full consensus that we would support moving this forward in the process. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. I thank you for that, and good luck to all of you. Pat, did you want to
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it, and a great way to help beautify our community. Thank you so much.
Thank
you. I did want to comment that the community budget forums are going to be held on April 27th at 9 a.m. and on April 28th at 5:30 p.m. in the lecture hall. These are done typically every year in the spring. The budget will be put in the Rec Center News in April as part of our budget process. Then we will have the community forums. So we will see the budget again to give our stamp of approval on it. I also wanted to comment, if you notice the beautiful quilts up here, there is a quilt show this weekend at Palm Ridge on Saturday and Sunday. You can go see a lot of the beautiful quilts that members of our community have made. So I would encourage you to attend that and support that club. Do I have any more comments from our committee? Dick?
The only thing I would say is again, this is editorial, and I don't think it requires action for our committee, but I would like to talk to Bill Schwenden, the staff, that we are headed for some pretty deep waters when it comes to money, and when it comes to paying for labor, and that story just goes on and on and on. And I think it deserves, it requires us as an organization to be proactive and to do some type of, marketing's not the right word, I know that, but some way to provide information to our community that this is coming. This is the way of the world right now, the way of our world. So I would encourage that strongly. Thank you.
Yes, I think I agree with everything you've said, Dick. I don't think I moved here expecting that I would never get an increase. I don't think anybody moved here thinking that there'd never be an increase in anything. So this really relates to those that are on fixed incomes. I strongly suggest you reach out to the Sun City West Community Fund, because if you are in need of support, that's a resource for you, including your membership, but you have to show that you're in need. So that's just a comment.
Thank you for that. Dick? Richard?
The only comment I have is that, yes, we have a lot of headwinds in the economy. There's a lot of things coming down the pipe, and oftentimes we do our best at trying to forecast them, but again, forecasting oftentimes is just guessing. And so we do the best we can. But the one thing I'm going to, keep pushing for and advocating for, there has to be a lot of communication with the community. We have to demonstrate to them the need, why we're doing it, and then try to be as empathetic with them as we possibly can. And if we can't do that, then we expect the blowback and a lot of yelling and screaming.
You echoed some comments that Dick made to me when we took our short break, and I do think it's incumbent upon all of us as committee members to try to educate people when we come in contact with them and help them understand this, because most people do not have our level of understanding of these budget issues, but I think all of us can condense that into something that they can understand.
Every manager is constantly faced with managing to the budget or managing to the needs of the community. And I certainly want to encourage us to always manage to the needs of the people. And we get the best budget we can, but we manage to the needs of the people first, and then we can explain ourselves. That's all.
Thank you. I do want to remind everybody of the a committee appreciation event that will be held on March 30th. That will be in the Kuntz Stardust Courtyard from 3 to 5, and that is for all committee members, and I hope that all of you will be there, just as a little token of thanks for your hard work throughout this year. Our next meeting may or may not be March 8th. I'm in touch with Carl about an issue that we may need to see at that time. If not, that would be the only thing on our agenda, so we may wait until March 22nd, but I will let you know. Don't cancel the date on your calendar yet, folks. So do we have any comments from our sparse audience? Do we have any remote comments? None? Hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you, Ann.